Louisiana and the southeastern coast of Texas are preparing for Hurricane Laura. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott saying extremely powerful winds are expected to hit parts of his state when Laura makes landfall on Thursday. As for Louisiana, Democratic Governor of Louisiana John Bel Edwards says,
"This has the potential to be the strongest hurricane to hit since Hurricane Rita."
Residents are continuing to evacuate before the storm. This is USA Radio News.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I am very pleased with your product. I haven't been sick since I've been taking this, and I contribute a lot of my energy and my health to your product, and I just want to keep taking it. So you guys just keep making it, okay? I just thank God for your company.
Balance of Nature is now offering 35% off on any new preferred order. Go to balanceofnature.com today and use discount code USA.
While you have free time and you're sitting at home and you ponder what kind of gifts to buy for someone, PatriotDepot.com has you covered from puzzles, games, novelty items. If you're looking for some unique style items when it comes to the president, for more you can check out PatriotDepot.com. Call 844-377-8052. That's 844-377-8052 or PatriotDepot.com. Use promo code USA.
Wildfires are continuing to burn in California. With an update, here's USA Radio Network's Chris Barnes.
More than 14,000 firefighters are working trying to control over 625 wildfires. The CZU Lightning Complex fire, clearly the biggest. It's prompted the largest evacuation orders. CAL FIRE San Mateo Santa Cruz Unit Chief Ian Larkin says,
"We're in this for the long haul. This is a historic event for this unit. We have never seen fire like this in the recent history that we have any records for."
A district judge in New York is rejecting Ghislaine Maxwell's request to be released into the prison's general population as she awaits trial for sex trafficking underage girls. Maxwell had asked for an end to what she calls onerous conditions while she's being held in jail. The former girlfriend of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is in solitary confinement inside a Brooklyn jail. This is USA Radio News.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines. 800-215-5141. 800-215-5141. That's 800-215-5141.
Democratic Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is slamming Secretary of State Mike Pompeo for planning to address a Republican National Convention from Israel tonight. Pelosi calling it appalling and unprecedented. She argued that representatives of the State Department should never engage in partisan political activities. Pelosi did not address all the Democrats serving under President Obama who spoke at the 2012 convention. The CDC has new rules on travel, and USA Radio Network's John Hunt has more.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention dropped its recommendations for travelers to quarantine for 14 days upon returning from trips overseas or out of state during the coronavirus pandemic. The CDC updated its guidelines on its website. Though the 2-week recommendation was changed, the federal agency did caution travelers that they can still contract the novel coronavirus while traveling. The CDC continues to recommend travelers wear masks indoors, wash hands, maintain social distancing guidelines, and monitor themselves for symptoms of COVID-19. They also state that traveling does increase your risk of contacting and spreading the virus, noting that staying home is the best protection from COVID-19 for yourself and others. If you must travel, the Federal Health Agency recommends travelers to check their recommendations on government websites for their destination, as well as any places they will be passing through during their trip.
For USA Radio News, I'm Tim Berg.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Harrison. I am your host, and I'm a host with a little bit of a cough today. Not sure where that came from, but
wow, look at the weather outside.
I know
the smoke and
that
dust.
smoke out there. Yes, it's been terrible, but I haven't been affected by it, I guess, until right now. Right? You brought it in with you.
I must have.
Say again, April.
Right when you need your voice.
It's true. It's true. Maybe I'm nervous. Oh,
that's it.
You think?
No, I don't think so.
Butterflies, perhaps?
Butterflies.
I've never seen you nervous.
Oh, that's so funny. I just didn't let on.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, you know the story about the duck, right? You look at a duck on the water and he just glides along, but underneath he's paddling like hell to stay afloat.
That's very true. That is the way it works, isn't it? So today we have a very interesting author who happens to be from Reno, Nevada, or at least lives in Reno, Nevada. I don't know that he's from Reno, but he lives here. He works up at the university. Christopher Koch. It's called You Would Have Told Me Not To. And these are stories, and I haven't been able to get through all of them, but I will tell you that I can't wait to finish it because very, very powerful stories, and for being short, they just really engage you. Don't you think?
I think, and they resonate, and you think about them long after you're finished.
Right.
And I haven't had that really experience in a long time with something I've read, especially a short story.
Right. That's what I think got me, was that it's so short, and yet it really affects you. Yes,
yeah,
Doug?
I agree. You know, what's amazing is that how you can condense something that's so large into a very succinct statement like that.
Yeah, and very well done. So can't wait to talk to him. He'll be on in the second segment. And you guys have a good weekend. We're missing Ed. If anybody knows our normal lineup, Ed Knoll is usually here with us, and he's out vacationing. Lucky guy.
Good for him.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I did notice with April, maybe it's because I so seldom get to see her online here. What happened to the fireplace in the background?
I haven't sat there in a long time.
Yeah, see, he hasn't been watching.
Really?
I guess not.
No, he's been
Well,
listening.
I'm sitting
but not
this
watching.
direction now in my dining room.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're in a different place than you were. You were by the mirror before.
Yeah. And
Yep.
now I'm over here. I like to
Now
move
I'm over
around.
here. Now I do that when I'm working at home. I tend to work at different places in the house.
I do that when I'm eating.
Do you? You eat in different places?
Sure. Then you have little crumbs on the floor to find your way back to the refrigerator.
Ever since like the lockdown, ever since March, I've actually used every room in my house.
Oh, that's
Just
funny.
Where I haven't actually used them regularly before. They were always sort of a store-all or a catch-all or a just walk in and walk out kind of room, or guest room that I never used. And now, I find I use every single place, and it's so different.
Yeah.
I try and make every room like a fun thing.
I did that and found my grandson.
You have a big house. You have a very big house.
It's funny that you were talking about the smoke here, because Paul and I, it's like a new hobby. We ask Google to tell us what the air quality index is. Sometimes we do it every 15 minutes to see if it's any better or changed. And sometimes it does. It changes dramatically. And then we're like, oh, let's run outside and go for a walk real quick before it gets bad.
Yeah.
Well, with all this good news about the virus and everything, are we lightening up any? Can we go outside? Or
What good news are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
What did you hear that we didn't hear?
Well,
what's the story?
There's fewer and fewer cases, which I assume those were national numbers, but they would have to reflect Nevada.
Because what I heard from just before I came in, actually, what I heard on the news report was that the governor was still saying that because we were at a certain level, and I don't know if it was 10% or something, and I don't know 10% of what.
Yeah.
So that we were still going to be kind of where we are. So I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to me like it hasn't changed dramatically. It's sort of the same.
It seems odd to me. It really does.
Yeah.
But, that's just me. We could get all political about it, but we're not going to. We're going to stay away from that. So
you just have to endure.
That's right. Hey, you didn't tell me what your topic today was going to be.
I know. I wrote you a text. I said I don't have a topic, but I'm actually.
I did see that.
One.
That's why you're brewing one now.
Yeah, I'm brewing. I like some tea. I'm brewing a topic for the next week.
Oh, so you're not doing a topic today?
Well, I can.
Yeah.
I could think of something real quick.
I'm sure you can. We can talk. We'll come up with something.
Okay.
All right. And then in our second hour, we're going to talk about current events, the approved plasma treatment for COVID, and the question, did Biden plagiarize again? According to Canada, maybe. And then the 2018 VP1 is on its way. I don't know if you know what that is.
Nope.
Doug is going to give us an update on the many reasons why California fires are out there. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to try.
Well, I have a few questions for you. So.
It's really great when somebody asks a question that means they don't know the answer. So I can pretty much make up what I want.
It's true. It's very
true. We would believe you.
We would. You're our authority, right?
Well, and I will sound authoritative.
Good. Authoritative. That's right. All right. And then we're going to do a little story time, a race in America, and that could have a number of meanings for this little segment. So you want to stay tuned or tune back in at the end of the show, which is we have a 2-hour show. So this is our first. And then in our second hour, we do all those lovely things that I just talked about. As I said, we miss Ed, but we hope he's having a good time. And I know he's not listening to us because he told me he tunes out. And I don't know too many people that do that shut off their phones.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. We see him do it right here.
Oh, I can't wait to tell him you said that. That's great.
That's because we love him.
All right. All right. You are listening to What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson, and we are looking forward to talking to Christopher Koch the next segment.
Businesses, writers, check this out. Go to LRPNV.com to get your printing, publishing, and professional services today. Need a virtual office? A place to receive and forward your mail with professional address and suite number for your business? Someone to answer your telephones? Want to rent a conference room for only $15 an hour? What about that book you've been wanting to have printed? LRP Printing and Business Center can do it for you, and they have a professional assistant on site daily, Monday through Friday. Just call 775-356-1004. Need copies, business cards, invoices, books, booklets, or graphic design to help brand you or your business? Just call 775-356-1004 or go to lrpnv.com. With a great selection of new and used books, you can get your printing done and a book to entertain you in your time off. And don't forget, you could have your business sponsoring the Book Hound radio show, just like Andrew Martoni, author of Little Man in the Map, does every week. Just go to lrpnv.com. That's lrpnv.com or call 775-356-1004. They'll provide solutions for your business and writing projects.
So here's the choice. Some people say the USA is finished. It's evil, a has-been, full of hate and injustice. The U.S. Constitution should be trashed and the Bill of Rights abolished. No free speech, no gun ownership. Competition and free markets are bad. We're all too stupid. For our own good, the government must own everything and know all your secrets.
Other people say that America has created the freest, richest, happiest, most generous society that has ever existed in the world. That's why millions of people are desperate to come here and escape their brutal lives in Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, and 100 other countries.
In America, we have the right to succeed, the right to our own living, the right to have a family, the right to believe in God, the right to have our own ideas, the right to be safe and secure, and the right to be left alone.
Where do you stand? Help us save the Constitution and restore the American dream. Go to SaveMyFreedom.com.
Brought to you by the American Media Council.
Rich is just a really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving? makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
GreatBasinHighway.com, Great Basin Highway magazine, radio show. Visit GreatBasinHighway.com and sign up for a free online subscription to our magazine.
Wake up, the sun below. Got another road to sow. Let the fire feel the hope swelling up from the depths of my soul.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. This is What's the Story, and I'm Janice Hermson. And on Zoom, we have right now April Kempler. Doug Ashby's here with me in the studio, and we're going to be introducing Christopher Koch, who is our guest today. And but I want to let you know that if you have questions, you can call in at 844-790-8255. And our text number 237-2266, that is a 775 area code. So feel free to either text or call. If you're on Facebook, we stream on the What's the Story page. You can go on there and make comments and ask questions. So it is my honor to introduce Christopher Koch, who is the author of a novel called You Came Back. And he's also the author of the book that we're going to talk about today, which is You Would Have Told Me Not To. And I think we can all say that we've we've said that before. And he won the Penn Robert Bingham Fellowship for a first work of fiction, and in 2007 was named one of Granta's best young American novelists. I could go on and on with all the many different accolades he has. He's a native of Indiana and received his MFA in fiction from Ohio State University. He's an associate professor of English at the University of Nevada, right here in Reno, where he directs the MFA program in creative writing. Welcome, Christopher.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And as I told you when we were off air, we were talking a bit in the first segment about your book. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself, talk a little bit more about why you're doing what you're doing, and then we'll ask you a few questions and we'll just chit-chat.
Sure thing. So this is a short story collection. I don't mind being a novelist every once in a while, but really short stories are where my heart is. My very first book, We're in Trouble, was a collection of short stories. And I think I'm probably at my best in that more compressed format. Like a lot of short story collections, I didn't really know that this was going to be a book until I was about halfway done with it. I had been writing the stories on and off. The very first story that appears in the book dates all the way back to, I think, 2007. But everything else in there was written within the last few years. And once I realized that I had a book, finishing it got a little bit quicker, and I knew what I was after. I told people when I was writing this that this was going to be my toxic masculinity book. In fairness, I've been writing about that my entire career. You know, there are elements of that in all the stuff that I do. But this was a book that came together, you know, after the last presidential election and when the Me Too movement was becoming very prominent. And I was realizing that a lot of the things I thought I knew about the people in my life, the people I was close to, and about my own behavior, you know, however critical I've been of it, I realized I didn't quite know as much as I needed to. So a lot of the stories that ended up finishing the book were written in that context, you know, trying to figure out something useful that I could say to the world at this particular time in its history. I think probably the other thing that I'd add to that is in 1999, before I'd published really anything, I lost my first wife to cancer when we were in our 20s. Wow. And it's fair to say, like, I talk a lot about masculinity. I've got a really bad dad and some stuff that I'm, you know, still thinking through all these years later. But I'm very much a person who's always been kind of conscious of having a life before and a life after. Huh. And everything in a lot of my fiction is kind of based on people who are trying to figure out how to reconcile those two halves of themselves. There's something that happened then, there's a tragedy, there's some sort of break. and then they live in the now. Except now I'm middle-aged, and so there's a whole bunch of midlife crisis all over this book too. You know, so it's probably these are stories about people who are trying to figure out whether they need to change. They're trying to figure out what they've done, you know, that's hurt other people. They're trying to figure out how to keep on going, you know, in the wake of new revelations about themselves. A lot of the stories are about the bad behavior of men, though there are 3 stories in the book that are from the perspective of women. You know, I think that's probably still one of the engines that drives every one of these stories is the damage that comes from men trying to figure out how to be men.
Well, that's a perspective.
Yeah, how long do we have, right?
That's right. One of the things that I noticed is that your stories seem to have layers to them. Is that a technique you use, or are you just capturing the people and it just develops into that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and thank you. If I say it's a technique, that's going to make it sound like I did it all on purpose. A lot of my writing process is putting a lot of words on the page and then trying to figure out what I did. And so for everything that you see in that book, there's a whole lot that got cut.
Right.
Some of it is just characters sitting and talking to each other in coffee shops because I didn't know what to do with them that particular day. I very much like stories about complicated people. You know, in the end, I'm trying to write a book that I would want to read. And the stuff that most moves me is short stories, novels about people who are complex, who are not particularly, you know, not 100% good, not 100% evil, who have reasons to do what they do, even if those things are hurtful, and also to look at, you know, the ramifications of hurt. I'm a complicated person. Everybody I know and care for is a complicated person. You know, even the people I'm mad at in my life are complicated people. And I'm the sort of fiction writer who needs to look at that rather, you know, than at, you know, some of the simpler stories that I also enjoy. You know, I would say that I probably am more a literary writer than somebody who writes, you know, solely to entertain.
Right.
But yeah, the layers are what I edit for after I erp a lot of stuff out on the page.
It's well done.
You know, it's interesting listening to you speak that it seems like you're on a journey too of discovering yourself and how you write and how you grow, which I think is awesome, especially as an instructor at the college, because I would think that would have to be a real give and take experience with your students. I think you probably both, you know, it goes in both directions where you learn both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. The MFA program here is new. We started that in 2015, and it was kind of life-changing for me. But without question, being in the classroom is a chance for me to figure out some stuff as well about the way I write. If I'm going to tell students that they ought to do something or ought not to do something, that immediately exposes a problem in my own work. It's hard to be a writing teacher without being an enormous hypocrite all the time. So I'm kind of testing my own theories in my own books. The students read a lot of stuff that I don't and put me in touch with some of that. Their concerns, when I started teaching, I was much younger. Now I'm nearly 50 years old. There is a definite generation gap between me and a lot of the students who enter our graduate program, and certainly between me and the undergraduates.
But don't you think that's a benefit to both sides of that?
Oh, I would think so. I think that's
don't you find that to be a benefit?
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. You'd have to ask my grad students if they think it's one. But to be good at this job, I think you have to keep up with them.
Of course, yes.
I can't stay stuck in my ways and be any good to them. I have to. Somebody else asked me this too recently. We were having another discussion on social media somewhere, and this person asked, how do you change somebody's mind? Which is, I think, a really interesting question in this day and age. And I told that person how many times I'd failed to change other people's minds. But the only real strategy I've got for it is to, in the classroom and elsewhere, is to kind of talk about my own change. I think that's one thing a teacher can do, is be a model for some of the stuff that we're trying to ask students to do. So in other words, I can't ask students to make big changes in their own life unless I tell them about all the times that I've made mistakes, that I've had to, you know, really seriously take a look at the way I teach my personal life, right? Like, I think probably everybody who teaches has to have that sort of reckoning with themselves too.
Sure.
What is it? Do I have to be a good person to be good for my students in the classroom? And if so, what's the connection between those two things? What's the connection between what I do in my life and what I do in front of a room?
Yeah, and that's where I thought that there would be great benefit on both sides, because you're learning while they're learning, and with your experience in addition to that, I don't know, I just think that's really good for them and good for you.
I will make sure and tell them that you said so.
They probably won't like me much for that.
They'll be happy to hear it.
That's funny. So, we only have a little over a minute. So why don't you first tell us how we can get your book, and tell us, any websites you have, anything like that, so that we can make sure we get that in.
Sure. My website is christopherkoch.info, because I'm bad at maintaining websites. So christopherkoch.com and christopherkoch.net are both hacked and unavailable. christopherkoch.info is where you need to go. That's got links to all my writing. And anybody who's living locally in Reno, Nevada, I would urge you to buy the book from Sundance Books and Music, our independent bookstore downtown. Otherwise, there are links on that webpage to find independent bookstores elsewhere. I think it's important that we support those.
Agreed. And I did post that on our What's the Story page. So if you don't find it, or just need to know more, then you can go ahead and go there. And Christopher is going to stay with us for another segment, and we're going to talk some more about You Would Have Told Me Not To. I know that April has some questions as well. She's been awfully quiet over there, April, so you're going to have to join in here on our next segment. And I know that Doug has a few more questions also, and so do I. So Christopher, thank you for being with us, and you are listening to What's the Story. We're going to be right back after these words.
You hear it all the time. Buy local, think local, eat local, choose local, grow local. But who the heck really is local? You can shop with locals at the Nevada Marketplace in the Reno Town Mall and search for locals at buynevadafirst.com. We're all local all the time.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
As humans, we ask ourselves all kinds of questions. But what if we were forced to ask ourselves a question every day that affected the outcome of the most basic things, the most important things in our lives? The question is, what is your sexual orientation or gender identity? And the answer is the difference between keeping your job or getting fired. The answer is the difference between staying in your home or getting evicted. The answer is the difference between receiving medical treatment or not. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against people based on their answer to this question. LGBT Americans have the right to say I do, but they don't have the same basic rights as everyone else. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
The Assistance League Thrift Shop at 1701 Vassar in Reno supports programs for children, seniors, veterans, and sexual assault victims. This nonprofit thrift shop sells clothing, housewares, small appliances, and furnishings, all donated by members of our community. Their all-volunteer membership is on hand from 10 to 4, Monday through Saturday. Check their website at www.renosparks.assistanceleague.org. Help your community by shopping, donating, or joining Assistance League.
If you see activity that seems suspicious, threatening, or criminal in nature, please speak up and say something. Anonymously report suspicious activity online at keepnevadasafe.org. Sponsored by a grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Nevada Department of Public Safety. Learn more at keepnevadasafe.org.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. This is What's the Story, and I'm Janice Hermson. I'm your host, and we are talking today with Christopher Koch, who is the I know, because that's the name on his book, and if they're going to find him, they have to go by Christopher Koch, and that's Koch, C-O-A-K-E, and he has written a group of stories called You Would Have Told Me Not To. I highly recommend them. I've not gotten through the whole book, in all honesty, but I'm raring to go here, and I can't wait to get through the rest of it. So without further ado, Chris, I wanted to ask you, at the beginning of the book, oftentimes authors will dedicate to different people, and I don't always even find any interest in that part of the book, but you said that you dedicated the book to your mom, who wrote, and I'm quoting, who wrote my stories down when they first appeared. So give us the story behind that. What's the story?
Sure. I started telling stories almost the moment I started hearing them. I didn't have any other career path. Nothing ever occurred to me but this. But I loved to be read to, and I was a really creative kid. So when I first started telling stories, my mother would transcribe them for me, write them down very neatly. They were all about like Godzilla and King Kong and stuff.
That was cool of her to do that, though. Not every
it really
mom would
was.
do that.
Yeah, and I would illustrate them with crayon, and she'd staple them together, and those would be my little
neat.
books that I would carry around. And also, too, the backstory is that, my mom was in a really bad marriage with my dad. And,
Chris,
he hurt her badly. So, she got me out of that house. She got me and my sister out of that house, got herself out of that house, and was heroic in doing it. And has always given me permission to talk about that and to write about those things, too. So, she's the reason I'm here. And so this book goes for her.
Well, that's awesome. April, I know you had a question, and you tend to get lost over there in Zoom. So
yeah, Zoom's so tricky for me.
I know.
So yeah, I've been enjoying your stories as well. I've been reading them. I'm on my third one, partially finished. Yeah, I thank you for writing them. And what was my question? Okay, so what is there a specific order that you thought out with the book order?
Yeah, my editor and I went back and forth on a couple of different groupings of things. It starts with the oldest story I have, and I think it's a pretty good introduction kind of to the types of characters and situations that'll be in the book. The book ends on a novella. The final story is really, really long. And it's called Big Guy. The book was originally going to be called Big Guy. My editor talked me into the new title, which is better.
I like it.
But, we wanted to begin on the one piece and end on the other, to end on that longest one. In my humble opinion, the novella is the best piece in the book and one of the best things I've ever written. But it's a lot to ask. So we give people smaller things to read up until that point. And then we just tried to sort of layer the voices. We didn't want two narrators or protagonists who are too much like each other to appear right next door to one another. Men tend to alternate with women, older people with younger people. There were a couple of other ways we could have gone with it, but I'm pretty happy with the way it ended out. I think there's a pretty good buildup. I don't know that anybody reads a short story collection from start to finish, but if they do, we've got some dynamics in there for them.
Okay,
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I was going to say when I have a group of short stories like this, I do kind of thumb through and see what interests me most. I really like books like this myself, so.
I usually do too, but with yours, I am reading it right in order. And so I kind of had a feeling with the first one. I thought this one seems like it was a early writing. And I love what you said earlier, that you found your topic, your thing that you wanted to write about. I don't know about toxic men exactly, but I mean, I know what you're saying. And I had mentioned to you, Jan, about your women are very smart, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we were commenting on that. We appreciated having women being shown as being smart and strong, and
yeah. And so, what's your editing process? How long does it take you? Because your books are deeper than they're short, but that doesn't mean they're not deep and complex. And so I'm really they just keep me going each page.
Well, thank you. I worked really hard on the characters, the women who do take center stage in these stories. Like I said earlier, my mom and my sister, were the people who raised me, and I've been married twice to two wonderful people. I want to make sure that if I'm going to write a woman character, that I'm not going to inadvertently do harm by doing so, especially in a book like this. But in terms of process, I mean, it takes me a long time. I have friends who write a book a year, and I'm really envious of them, but I just can't do it. I have to sit and think and throw stuff away and delete a lot. Some of the stories in here, the novella that closes the book, it's not autobiographical really, but it is about stuff that has been on my mind a lot. The main character in the novella is a man who's trying to lose 100 pounds. I've never been particularly happy with my weight. I was a skinny kid, and then my metabolism hit a wall in the 20s, and I've been, some degree of large ever since. I've probably lost over the years and then gained back somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 pounds. So I've always been losing, always been starving myself. I've always been eating too much. And the year after my first wife passed away, I lost 80 pounds in a year.
Oh, wow.
Mostly to have something to do and to kind of focus myself, and out of the belief that I'd, never meet anybody again if I was big. So the main character in that final story does a lot of that. He's a different person and he makes different choices. But I wanted to write that story. I needed to write that story, but it wasn't a pleasant experience to write that story. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff that ends up being really good and readable for other people is, it's hard work. And it makes me think about stuff that I need to be careful about rather than just pushing it out.
Almost autobiographical. It's like you're having to face certain things.
Yeah, I am a fiction writer. I try to change a lot.
Okay.
People who know me well will see certain things in some of the stories. Other people will guess, but there's a reason I do fiction and not memoir. I very much want to give my problems to somebody else and let them solve it, and see what they do. And then I make it more dramatic. And, there are things I've done in my life that I wish I'd done differently, but I'm not, I hope, the sort of, bad person that some of the people in these stories end up proving themselves to be. That's a way of just sort of extrapolating and writing about things I'm afraid of and, trying to face those too.
Mm-hmm. We talked about change, and I see a lot of change in your characters too, from when the story starts to when they end. And they're either they change in an emotional way, or they change in a mindset or an action. And I, as a writer, that's important to show that change.
It really is. I think everybody reads because they're worried about change. I really do think that that's why we do it. The books that mean a lot to us are those that help us rehearse things, work on moral problems maybe before we have to face them, in our actual life. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm doing what I do. The books that mean the most to me are about people having to really struggle with stuff that's not easy. I'm in the place in my life where that's what I want coming into my head.
I know Doug has a question for you. He's been chomping at the bit here.
Well, I have been. It was something you said about when you would tell stories and your mom would write them down. Well, did you go back and read them and then say, wow, that's pretty good? That was a good story. Or do you take the opposite approach? Or did she kind of embellish them a little bit?
I can't even read stuff I wrote last week and think it's good. I mean, those stories about Godzilla need a lot of work.
Well, it's interesting because when I was writing my book, you get so far ahead, and then you go back and you would read something, and I guess it's everybody fights this as you go, oh, I could do that better. Well, you get wound up in that cycle, and it's very hard to get out of it. But then I've also been back and I think, wow, did I write that? That was pretty good,
Yeah, I'm acting a little bit. I wouldn't put a book out in the world if I didn't believe in it. And there were moments where I'd really get into a corner with this book, and I'd go back and read something from the beginning and realize, like, okay, I see it. I see why I started this. I see why I got this far. Still, if I do a reading from that book at any point, I start making frowny, squishy faces and getting all upset with myself for not editing just one more time. And that will always be true, but that sort of obsessive quality has served me well, so I guess I'll stick with it.
All right, we only have like about a minute and a half, so I want to ask you a question, but then if there's something you'd like your readers to share with your readers, I want you to have time to do that as well. But okay. I'm just wondering how you have developed your characters, your stories and your characters. Just if you could elaborate on that a little bit, and then, like I say, if you have something you want to share with readers, feel free.
Sure. I do my best to make them do dramatic things. I usually start with a what if rather than with a person in mind. So what if this happened? Well, who might that happen to, and how would they react? And I try to let them react in the ways that they want to. It's not a completely mystical thing, like I'm making these people up. But my writing teacher, Lee Abbott, who passed away while the book was getting written, a guy whose voice is in my head a lot, he used to tell us that in the writing of every story, there's a moment when it turns around and looks at you. Which is one of those little Zen koan things that, are designed to stick in your head and mean different things. I take it to mean that at a certain point, the characters take on enough complexity that they begin to suggest surprising things to the writer. The stuff I've written that I don't like as much is where I feel like I'm pushing my characters through doors that they don't want to go through. And in most of the cases in this book, I think the characters walk through the doors they want to walk through. There's a surprise to me in every story, something that I didn't expect when I sat down to start it. And that's what I'm looking for, is to try and generate that surprise. And then I have readers I trust, people who will tell me. There's a story in there about a woman who's the mother of a young boy. I don't have kids. I'm not a woman. I'm not a mom. I can imagine a lot of things, but I did show that to people who are moms and are women and, would say things to me like, what if she liked her child?
Right.
Like, that's a really good point. I'm going to go back and work that into the story. And, then, I kind of take it from there. So there's a lot of work in it.
I can hear that. Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us, and please come back again and talk some more about your books. And we appreciate you being with us, Christopher. And his website is on our What's the Story page, ChristopherCoke.info. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Businesses, writers, check this out. Go to lrpnv.com to get your printing, publishing, and professional services today. Need a virtual office? A place to receive and forward your mail with professional address and suite number for your business? Someone to answer your telephones? Want to rent a conference room for only $15 an hour? What about that book you've been wanting to have printed? LRP Printing and Business Center can do it for you, and they have a professional assistant on site daily, Monday through Friday. Just call 775-356-1004. Need copies, business cards, invoices, books, booklets, or graphic design to help brand you or your business? Just call 775-356-1004 or go to lrpnv.com. With a great selection of new and used books, you can get your printing done and a book to entertain you in your time off. And don't forget, you could have your business sponsoring the Book Hound radio show, just like Andrew Martoni, author of Little Man in the Map, does every week. Just go to lrpnv.com. That's lrpnv.com or call 775-356-1004. They'll provide solutions for your business and writing projects.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Matthew.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Now she's gone like a river.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. You are listening to What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson, and I'm here today with two of my three co-hosts. I got April Kempler, author of The Altered Eye, who is on Zoom with us. So if you're on Facebook, please check us out. And Douglas Ashby,
Thank you.
Douglas, who is the author of Heroes and Giants, soon to have his second edition.
Perfect.
Yeah, he's been waiting to hear what I was going to say about that.
That's true.
Yeah, I know.
Second edition.
Yeah, I know. Good. That's very good, and it's coming out really, really nice. So we will talk about that in future shows because we're going to have some conversations about that. And normally right now we do our Reno Gal Says, but our Reno Gal Says is going to just give us a little highlight of what next week's going to look like. How about that?
Yeah, it's going to look good because I will get on it. But I got a little bit of inspiration today listening to a podcast that I will reference that next week. And it was really within the podcast. It was relating a story of a man. He's a barber, and he was trying to help a young man get ready for a job interview. And he was asking him questions about how he wanted to look. He said he's getting ready to interview with this man who's very well respected, highly influential, and he's not hired by him yet, but he wants to be, and he wants to be ready. And he said, well, why don't you go apply for the job or go interview? And he said, well, I'm not ready yet. When I'm done with myself, I'm going to go do it. And so it was something they were talking about how. And he related his own personal story about being a barber and how it's like a different level to it about being ready for a job. And you may already be ready. You may know, and I've been hearing this a lot lately, you may know more than you think you do know, and you may be more prepared. And so saying to yourself, well, I'm not ready yet. I have to do this first, and I have to do that first, and I have to look this way, is postponement. And it's something that I always do. I don't know if it's postponement, procrastination, but I'm not ready yet. When I'm ready, when I have all this aligned, I'm
right. I think that's a real easy kind of thing to fall into is I will win, right? You put the win out there. When this happens, I'll do that. Well, that win may never come.
It might not, but we have this image of ourselves, what we want to present to the world or present to the person we want to work for or represent. Right. And we're not ready, fixing ourselves, but we may already be there.
Right.
And so that's the gist of it.
Great. It sounds very interesting. And And I want to remind everybody to go to renogalsays.com, correct?
Yes,
And-
it's a WordPress blog, renogalsays.com.
Right, and you will see other writings from April, different items
I
on
am
there.
all over the place.
I know,
In
it's
fact,
interesting.
I don't know. Did I ever submit to you my story? It was a short story of, do you remember, Doug, that Colin fire several years ago? I don't even know how many years ago.
I remember it.
The witch
Okay,
fire?
because
The Colin
you had a fire shortly thereafter,
Right.
like on the other side of town. So I wrote my experience, my firsthand experience of that fire and the
I don't know if
evacuation.
you ever sent that to me, April. I don't think you did. You should.
And then it's crazy. I wrote it, and my neighbor, I handed it to my neighbors. They loved it. My neighbors said it was sort of a like, here's some of my writing. My book's coming out by my books.
Yeah, I was writing for Yahoo at that time, and I wrote one called The Burning.
Oh, maybe
The
I
Burning
submitted
Bush.
it to
Yeah.
Yahoo. I think that's what it was. And then, Paul saw it on somebody else's website. Like, it was weird. He's like, isn't this your story? And I said, yeah. He's like, well, they must have liked it because they have it on their website. And I said, well, okay, I'm taking it back. So I took it back and I put it on my blog, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please
because
do.
It's sort of buried, and it's about the fire. And my neighbor, who's used to be an English teacher, gave it an A+.
All right. Excellent.
I'd like to read that too.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
gonna tell
I'll give you my
my-
Burning Bush too. It was a good story. It was about our fire in Pleasant Valley.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I so seldom saw that.
Yeah.
I was on the other end of the proverbial scale there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, I found a story that I thought was of interest. You guys know I've been doing a lot of research on our ancestry in our family. And this particular story is 3 of the strangest results to come out of ancestry DNA tests. I'm not going to probably read all 3 of them, but one in particular is the story, and this is by somebody by the name of, these are like personal stories told by Claire, and this was from 2019. It's a real user story, and had quite a few views, 25,000 views. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I would say it's interesting to some people.
It's impressive.
It is. If you can get more than 10, it's impressive.
I
Right?
get 2 views.
I mean, if you can hold people for that length of time to click
I
on
got
your...
2 views, and one of them's me.
I know. You're excited for the other one, right?
Exactly.
So this is the story of Krista Bryan. They say it's incredibly interesting. She grew up considering herself Hispanic. Her father died by suicide when she was still a baby, so she didn't have all that much idea of her paternal heritage. She decided to try an ancestry test and find out about herself. She found out more than she expected. Not only was her father not dead, but he wasn't Hispanic either. He was an African-American man who had known her mother very briefly. Krista had to reassess the way she thought of herself, but she says that meeting her newfound family was well worth it. When you think about the difference between family and friends, the statement blood is thicker than water comes to mind. Family is family no matter how much you fight or try to avoid that reality. But friendships can be very significant as well. There are millions of people, I don't know if this is relative to the same story or not, I can't tell. There are millions of people who have lifelong friends who are, for all intents and purposes, family. For Walter, it's a different story. For Walter McFarlane and Alan Robinson, that reality turned out to be rooted in fact. They had each separately taken DNA tests and were told they had a half-brother. When they were put in touch, neither could quite believe that the person who had been by their side for so long was actually their brother.
Wow.
They found out this information in their 70s after more than 60 years of friendship.
Wow.
That's pretty interesting. The
That
truth
is
is that for them, the information just served as further proof of what they already knew. They were family, even if their DNA had never been matched.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
That's a beautiful, actually, story.
It is,
I like
isn't it? Yeah, that's a good story.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's
April.
okay. Go ahead.
You brought up something that I've really never ever thought about, and that's what I am, who I am. You just are. But if you had your world shaken like that, where you thought you were Hispanic and turned out you were African American, I don't.
Well, I was doing some, because I'm writing this book with Floyd. I did some DNA stuff, or not DNA, but I did some ancestry stuff to try and find out, because part of what we're doing is putting some of his history in. And his roots are American. He was born in Canada, but his family is all from America, and they go back 3 generations. So it's just
they came over like with the Pilgrims or something.
I've gotten back as far as
Mayflower.
Gotten back as far as 1700 on that, on one side of his family, and they all were born in America. So I don't know what the origins are prior to that. So it'd be interesting to find out, though, because I did that with my own, and I got back as far as 1700 on them as well. And basically both sides of my family go back to Prussia. So, but it gives you a different sense of who you are and kind of.
How does it change you? Does it?
Oh, it does, because.
I don't know that it does, but
I think it does. No, I think it does. I think it gives you.
I think maybe depending on how drastic it is, I guess.
Yeah, maybe so. But I think that it gives you the sense of, like I look back to see how the people acted, and some of them were not very nice people. And so it was like, that's interesting. So it was the way they interacted about the Holocaust and different things like that. Yeah. So it was not always the best.
Do you remember when we talked about how they were using this DNA stuff to locate serial killers?
Yes.
And they did find the Golden State Killer, I guess, through some of these records. So, yeah, sometimes you don't find. And then the woman who found out her grandfather was the commandant of Quechua.
Right. Yeah.
And she is African American.
Right. Yeah, it's just interesting. I think it's interesting.
He was someone who hated races. So. Yeah, that to me is like, that would be changing.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I say, and I have just really scratched the surface, so I can't really say that it's had a dramatic effect. But
well, it's fascinating.
It is. It's fascinating. I love that word. Fascinating. And this is so fascinating. We have to take off here because we got to take our break. We will be back after the news, and we'll have our second hour. Unfortunately, April has to leave us. Sorry to see you go, April.
Me too, just for now. But
don't leave.
To stay longer next time.
All right, we'll be back after the news.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
I know I need to pay attention to my health, but I just can't seem to find the time. Between rushing to work and taking care of the kids, there's not much time left over for me. So I decided to start small by eating more fruits and vegetables and being more active. And then I got the family to make some changes too. We started by keeping a bowl of fresh fruit on the counter, and I limit the amount of sweet snacks I keep in the house. I've also found some creative ways to add more vegetables to our meals. We're taking more walks, and on the weekends, we head down to the pool at the rec center. It doesn't happen every day, but it does happen. You don't have to change your entire life to be healthier. Just make some simple changes and include your family. You'll see how easy and fun it can be.
You can make a difference. Eat smart, play hard. And when you do, your kids will too. A challenge from USDA.
This is America Matters Media Radio, heard worldwide on the web at americamatters.us and on KCKQ 1180 AM, Reno.
USA Radio News with Tim Berg.
Officials in Kenosha, Wisconsin are bracing for a third night of unrest after a black man was shot by police on Sunday. Today, attorney for the family, Benjamin Crump, updates us on the status of Jacob Blake.
It is going to take a miracle for Jacob Blake Jr. to ever walk again.
Blake's father saying,
He shot my son 7 times like he didn't matter.
Wisconsin Democratic Governor Tony Evers calling on protests to remain peaceful, as last night we saw lots of rioting and looting going on in Kenosha. The NFL seems to be doing a good job regarding coronavirus testing, the league announcing on Monday that there were 0 positives among the players between August 12th and August 20th. You're listening to USA Radio News.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I think just taking the balance of nature, I really feel like I just plain old-fashioned feel better. And it's really a noticeable thing. So that to me is significant. It really is.
Right now, Balance of Nature is offering free shipping and 35% off on any new preferred order. Call 1-800-2468-751 or go to balanceofnature.com today and use discount code USA.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-215-5141. 800-215-5141. That's 800-215-5141.
During the Republican National Convention, President Trump met with essential workers at the White House. USA Radio Network's Chris Barnes explains from Washington.
President Trump says his administration is not getting rid of U.S. postal workers. In a pre-recorded meeting with essential workers at the Republican National Convention, the president said that he cares deeply about the U.S. Postal Service. He met with postal workers, police officers, registered nurses, and doctors to discuss the coronavirus pandemic.
The University of Alabama has reported 531 COVID-19 cases at its Tuscaloosa campus since classes resumed last week, as the city's mayor announced bar closures to stem the spread of the potentially deadly bug. The executive order closing bars and bars inside restaurants until September 8th. And you're listening to USA Radio News.
While you have free time and you're sitting at home and you ponder what kind of gifts to buy for someone, PatriotDepot.com has you covered from puzzles, games, novelty items. If you're looking for some unique style items when it comes to the president, for more you can check out PatriotDepot.com. Call 844-377-8052. That's 844-377-8052 or PatriotDepot.com. Use promo code USA.
Laptop shortages across the United States could greatly affect schools as classes start up again. Due to hardware delays, laptops might arrive in time for the start of virtual classes.
It's a little bit like asking them to paint without a paintbrush. It's asking them to play basketball without a ball.
Tom Baumgarten, superintendent of the Morongos Unified School District in California, says his district is waiting for over 5,000 Lenovo Chromebooks.
It's several weeks delayed now. We're all chasing computers. We're calling the companies. I mean, this past weekend, we just got 1,000 computers.
The shortage also affecting schools in Ohio, Maryland, Indiana, and New York. Lynn Hung is with the Intel Data Corporation.
We've gotten this astronomical surge in demand for laptops. The supply chain was not anticipating having to produce this many, and we are still playing catch up at the moment.
Former First Lady and 2016 Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton says Joe Biden shouldn't concede the election because the final results of the election will likely drag out due to mail-in ballots. Clinton saying without proof that the president is using COVID to defraud the American people, all of our people, of a fair and free election. The post office is telling people to get their ballots in early, although some political observers have said a winner of the presidential contest may not be declared on Election Day. For USA Radio News, I'm Tim Berg.
The following is an America Matters Media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Now she's gone like a riddle in a song, all the way to MIA, where she thinks that she belongs. Poof, now she's gone like a riddle in a song, all the way to MIA, where she thinks that she belongs.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson. I'm your host. I'm here with Doug Ashby. It's just you and me, Doug.
That's it.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
Everybody deserted us.
That's, you know what? That's all we need.
I know. It'll be fun. We can.
Absolutely.
You can talk more.
You really want me to? Did you really?
I don't have to ask.
Did you really say that?
We only have an hour.
I can't even clear my throat in that amount of time.
We are aware. But we love you for it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So if this is the first time you've tuned in to What's the Story, we are a 2-hour show. This is our second hour. And we are glad that you've joined us. We're your go-to show for information, entertainment, authors, entrepreneur interviews. We do lots of different things here, and we try and keep it interesting and different every week. So you won't hear the same thing over and over. At least we hope not, except that Doug likes to talk a lot. You will hear that. So anyway, so we're glad you're here, and I usually start this segment off with some current events. So I'm going to do that again today, and on a local note, and we don't always do local. We try and keep it pretty nationwide and interesting to everybody. But I do think that this is an interesting topic for everyone. It's about fighting COVID-19, and there is an event that's going to be happening. It's Meet the Reno Doctor Fighting COVID-19. Dr. Bruce Fong, a Reno doctor of 20 years, will be doing a lunch presentation about how he has been treating his COVID-19 patients and saving their lives with hydroxychloroquine. And Dr. Fong is the medical director at Sierra Integrative Medical Center. He will be discussing how hydroxychloroquine is a cure for COVID-19. His words, not mine. Don't yell at me. Unlike Renown and other medical centers, he will prescribe that drug for you before you get so sick that you need to be hospitalized. So if you want to hear more about that, form your own opinion, which I think is an important thing to be able to do. Friday, August 28th, if you're in the Reno area, it's at noon. The presentation is free, no charge for that. Del Real Pub and Grill at 6148 Mayan Avenue. And lunch specials will be there, and they're including a drink, and they'll be offered for $10. So you can have lunch, you can listen to the presentation, you can decide for yourself, which I think is really important. RSVP to bev.steneHjem@gmail, or call or text to 408-705-6537. Space is limited, so if you want to do this, there's only a couple more days. Today's the 25th. This is going to be on the 28th, so check it out. Dr. Fong will be there. It is a Washoe County Republican Party official event. Who knew? All right, then. That's all he's going to say about that.
No, stop it. No, just something real quick. It's a shame that anything in medicine has to become political.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
This should not be political. This should be.
Nope. If we can help people, that's what we should do.
Yeah, well, and information is information, and you should be able to learn about what's out there and then make your own decision, as I said. So that's my take on that. And then I also wanted to talk about this is also about the same topic, not hydrochloroquine, but well, my computer doesn't want to agree with me on this. What you need to know about the blood plasma treatment approved by the FDA to fight COVID-19. So there's another treatment. There is an emergency plasma treatment for COVID-19. Health officials in the U.S. have issued that in the blood of recovered coronavirus patients as a treatment for hospitalized individuals fighting COVID-19. That is from the Miami Herald. That's where I'm reading this. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration announced Sunday that the known and potential benefits of the product when used to treat COVID-19 outweigh the known and potential risks of the product after reviewing data from clinical trials over the past several months. It's amazing to me how quickly they're getting this stuff out there. And I am going to put this article on our What's the Story page. You have a question? Or
yeah, did I read or did I hear that they could have something out as soon as November?
Possibly, yes. Yeah. Very possibly. So I'm going to post that story for you. So if you haven't heard about it, and I'm sure pretty much everybody's been hearing about these things, but you just never know what you hear and what you don't. So check that out because I think that is very important. I'm not going to get through all my stories, but we'll come back and we're going to do the rest of them on the other side of the break because I do want to talk about the fact that Biden was accused of plagiarism in the acceptance speech that he did. You know, he's famous for having plagiarized different things, and that's a known thing, not something I'm saying. And so he's been accused again, this time from Canada. Not from anybody here. So we'll talk about that. And then also the 2018 VP1 is on its way. And if you don't know what that is, we're going to tell you about that on the other side as well. Do you know what the 2018 VP1 is?
No.
Well, good. Then I will tell you about it in a little bit. And then Doug is going to share a little bit about the fires that are out there. I noticed that the AP was putting out, it seemed that the AP was putting out that there were 4 reasons why, because I saw a number of stories that said there were 4 reasons why these fires are happening. So I shot it over to our expert here on fires, and we're going to have him share with us whether those 4 reasons seem plausible. You know, just your take on it is all.
Would you go over again how verbose I was? Well, kind of sometimes you get on a roll, don't you? Sorry.
It's okay. Oh, so yes, Doug likes to talk. That's what he's trying to tell you. We're going to kind of keep him to one segment if we can, but not, well, partially one segment. All right, folks, so that music tells us it's time to take a break. We will be right back, and we'll cover a couple more of our stories, and then Doug will talk about the fire.
Perfect.
Right back.
Good.
Hey, all you entrepreneurs out there. Whether you have a small business or work from home, LeRue Press offers a virtual office and business address for all your business needs. Located at 280 Gregg Street, Suite 10, LeRue Press is your personal assistant for friendly all-day service. Need a conference room to meet with clients? You got it. With LeRue Press, you also get phone answering service, mail forwarding, package pickup, and even help branding your business. Call LeRue Press at 849-3814 or go online to lrpnv.com.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
The all-volunteer nonprofit Assistance League Reno Sparks is working to improve lives in Washoe County. Annually, they provide new clothes and grooming essentials to over 3,000 children through Operation School Bell. Students in Transition addresses needs of homeless teens. Find out more by visiting their website, renosparks.assistanceleague.org. These activities are funded by Assistant League's Thrift Shop at 1701 Vassar Street, open 10 to 4 Monday through Saturday.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
And welcome back. This is What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson, here with my awesome co-host, Doug Ashby.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back. We were doing some current events before the last break. And
What's this wee stuff?
Well, you know, I share it, you listen.
I do.
You comment.
And it
every
was
now
very
and then.
interesting. I enjoyed it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, this time I'm going to talk a little bit about Biden being accused of plagiarism. This is actually from The Blaze. And Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has been accused of plagiarizing a part of his acceptance speech at the Democratic National Convention. Similar allegations arose during his failed 1988 campaign for the White House. Several Canadians took to Twitter. I just love how the news always comes out of Twitter, right? Who would have thought that in the days gone by, right? Calling foul during the broadcast of Biden's speech Thursday night, accusing Biden of lifting the words of departed liberal Canadian politician Jack Layton, who passed away in 2011. CBS News Washington correspondent Alexander Panetta noted, a number of Canadians are struck by the similar parting words of Biden's speech to the final words of Jack Layton's farewell letter before his death. The reporter provided side-by-side excerpts. So Biden's speech said, "For love is more powerful than hate. Hope is more powerful than fear. Light is more powerful than dark. This is our moment. This is our mission." Those were his parting words. Layton said, "My friends, love is better than anger." His first line was, "Love is more powerful than hate. Hope is better than fear. Hope is more powerful than fear. Optimism is better than despair. Light is more powerful than dark." And then, "So let us be loving, hopeful, and optimistic, and we'll change the world." And he said, "This is our moment. That's our mission." I don't know. Is that really that similar?
Well,
I mean, it's similar. But
all he would have had to do.
easy for you to say. What would he have to say?
All he would have had to done. All he'd
have to do is
quote where it was coming from.
Right.
You know, say,
if
hey,
he was copying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't lose its impact. You know what?
So the left-leaning outlet HuffPost Canada declared Joe Biden's DNC speech sounded a lot like Jack Layton, quote, while conservative publication The Post Millennial noted the left-wing Canadian activists were making the plagiarism accusation. Both outlets compiled examples of tweets from users claiming Biden stole Layton's words. And I guess what I would say about that is, wow, how hard is it? I mean, how hard is it to make up your own words on something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, those are just pretty simple. I don't know if I agree. You can hear I'm doubting it a little bit, but I guess if you want to say he is, I guess you can
Well,
say
you know,
he is.
I think when you speak...
Because
Biden
he's noted for plagiarizing, and I think they look for it. So people can go in and they can start searching, right?
Sure. Biden has been in politics for 40-plus years. And there is plenty of meaningful things that we can pick on him for. I think something like this, we ought to just let it slide.
I agree with you. I tend to agree with you on that because it's not a policy issue. It's, let's just move on. If that's all that they can pick apart,
Yes. Well, let's get him out of his basement and do some face-to-face stuff, you know what?
That would be awesome. So again, Twitter was all aflutter. I'm going to switch to my next story, which was finally some good news. An asteroid is heading our way on the eve of the presidential election. How about that? Isn't that an awesome thought?
Well, it is. We'll know what side God's on, won't we?
So this article says, just ended already. This is from Market Watch, actually. That seems to be the reaction across the internet to the headlines that an asteroid might put us all out of our misery on November 2nd, the night before the presidential election. Might be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So don't get too excited. The odds of the celestial rock dubbed 2018 VP1, I want to understand why they named it that. I should have looked that up. Hitting Earth are less than 1%. And even if it did, it's only about the size of a horse, according to NASA, which published the table for the wonks out there. So here we are. Basically, the space agency says there could be 3 potential impacts based on 21 observations spanning 12.968 days. Don't forget the 0.968. Though none of them are realistically problematic. But that didn't stop Twitter. No shortage of political commentary accompanying the faux panic. Anyone who doesn't vote asteroid is helping Trump. I love it. Oh my
gosh.
New NASA predicts an asteroid will pass close to the Earth the day before the election. This is what a 13-pound burger looks like. We deserve an asteroid TBH. I don't even know what that means. I guess I need to get my my little acronyms in order. I'm a single issue voter and I'm voting for the asteroid. These are just some of the comments from Twitter. With an asteroid set to pass by Earth right before the election, Trump has warned that the Democrats are behind it and that we'll need to look very, very closely at this gravity thing they claim is responsible and possibly delay the election another 68 million years. That's good. That's funny. You're either with Biden or you're with the asteroid. Those are the sides. So they were playing around with it. They were having a good time. There's a greater risk of the asteroid hitting us than there is of vote by mail fraud. Well, that's one person's opinion.
Oh, geez.
So there you go.
I don't think so.
Well, there you go. Those are my stories for today. And I'm going to go ahead and post those as well. I just thought the asteroid thing was kind of funny.
It is. It is. Unless it hits.
Well, yeah, it won't be real funny then, will it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, chances are, if it hits the globe, it would end up in the ocean, I would hope.
Hard to know.
Yeah.
You know, really hard to know.
Well,
so
the ocean's a bigger target.
It's true, but it depends on where it's coming down.
Yeah.
Right? Who knows?
True. Yeah.
Who knows where that is? So I'm looking I got one more fun story, and that's for you, Doug, and that's the one I told you we actually talked about this on Basil's show. I don't know if I have it up here or not. Here we go. I got it. Bear with me one moment, and we're going to talk about the beer that saves the California man's house from the wildfire.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So it really, there's a hero in each of us, even in watered-down light beer. Extreme situations require extreme measures. A California man's quick-witted response to the LNU lightning complex fires has saved his house and redeemed his taste in beer. More precisely, Charles Little from Vacaville used cans of Bud Light beer to ward off the encroaching flames of a wildfire that threatened to consume his home that was still under construction. So people tend to make fun of light beers, and for good reason, but in this case at least, my hat goes off to Bud Light. It's good for something after all. Oh boy, they sure do make fun of Bud Light, don't they? The fires reached Little's house on Vacaville's ironically named Pleasant Valleys Road on Wednesday morning. He told the reporter that he and his family had been prepared and packed most of their things. Only Little himself refused to leave his house, telling his family to go on without him. He says he had a lot of friends and family trying to fight with him because, they wanted him to leave and he wasn't going to do it. So his reluctance to let his house burn down is understandable because in 2015, his house was torched by a spark from a malfunctioning fan in his attic. So they weren't home at the time. They were fine. They, their house and everything wasn't, and they had nothing. So they've been battling insurance companies and for like 5 years, and he wasn't going to let history repeat itself. So he'd already wrangled with lawyers and insurance agents, and facing the raging fire was a walk in the park compared to that. Yeah, I don't know about that. So the unlikeliest of all heroes was his Bud Light. As the fire crept closer to the house, Little initially relied on good old-fashioned water, set off his sprinklers, used water hoses, wet the ground, extinguished what he could. But then the Solano Irrigation District decided to shut off their water. In a blink of an eye, the water barrier around Little's home disappeared. So he was scared. And in an interview with KCRA3, he said that this was when the propane tanks that everyone in the area had next to their houses started exploding. It was just like a war zone. Boom, boom, boom. Fires were just going crazy. So left without much water, he... I'm going to have to expedite this because we have just a little bit of time. Looked around for water, juice... And then he spotted, are you ready? A 30-pack of Bud Light beer. Now, who has a 30-pack of Bud Light beer? It's the Bud Light at the end of the tunnel. And so what did he do? He used his Bud Light. He said it was wet, so he used it. And it was a good plan. Didn't work really well, but he managed to make it work and used a nail to open them up and poured it on there. The firefighters showed up. And with the help of the firefighters and all the right equipment, in addition to his beer, he was finally able to get the fire under control.
I thought you were going to tell me that he drank all 30, and that's what gave him the energy and the courage to go out and fight that fire.
Yep. So... yeah, well, he continued to help his neighbors after that. So I thought that that was really nice, that he did help his neighbors out. And
isn't it amazing that a 30-pack has more credibility than the firefighters are writing?
Well, that's a good story, right?
It is.
Bud Light saved the day. All right, well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have a real fire story from our fire chief over here, Mr. Doug Ashby, and we will be right back. This is What's the Story, and I'm Janice Hermson, and we always give you good stories.
Yeah,
we do. We do.
And true, I might add.
Most of the time.
Yeah. That's our secret.
Right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dennis Patterson. I'm the founder and owner of Nevada Advanced Pain Specialists. At Nevada Advanced Pain Specialists, we take a comprehensive approach to treating patients with chronic pain in the greater Reno, Tahoe area. We believe in the biopsychosocial model. This means we use multiple disciplines such as massage therapy, physical therapy, behavioral health, and medical treatments to treat your chronic pain. A plan of care is tailor-made for each individual patient. We always recommend conservative care first, but offer minimally invasive treatments when necessary. We are your one-stop shop. If it hurts, we can help. We pride ourselves in providing passionate care and making you feel welcome and understood. We are located in Reno and in Sparks, so give us a call to schedule a new patient consult at 284-8650. Again, that's 284-8650. Or visit our website at nvadvancedpain.com. We hope you choose Nevada Advanced Pain Specialists to be your center for injury rehabilitation. nvadvancedpain.com, 284-8650.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
As an 18-year-old,
I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
This overload.
Shannon Lawson here. Join us for the Nevada Radio Roundup, Fridays at 2 p.m. A good news variety show all about the local scene. The Nevada Roundup, Friday at 2.
Wake up, the sun below. Got another road to sow. Let the fire feel the hope swelling up from the depths of my soul.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
And welcome back. I'm Janice Hermson. I'm your host of What's the Story here with Doug Ashby.
Yep.
Huh. All right. So we have been doing some current events, and we talked about the meteor that's supposed to hit right before the election, which ought to be kind of entertaining. And, what else can go wrong?
Yeah,
right?
wildland fires.
Well, we have quite a few of those.
Yeah, that's true. They're all caused by Trump. I don't know if you know that or not. Yeah,
I didn't hear that. I'm glad you let me know.
There is an undertow there. It's got to be him.
Well, I did happen upon the fact that there are 4 reasons why California wildfires are the worst ever. And this was on Newsweek, and then I popped up my phone, and the same thing popped up, but not from Newsweek. Another source had the same kind of story, not exactly the same headline, but it was all about these 4 reasons why California wildfires are the worst ever. So I said, this is a story for Doug. Doug worked for the fire service for 20 plus years. And
all my life.
All your life.
Yep.
And he knows fires. So I wanted to turn it over to you, Doug, and let us know. California's Mendocino complex fires have become the state's largest ever, a scorching blaze that has nearly doubled in size in 72 hours. So that's our start of our story. And that's just one of the many. So fire away. Tell us all about this and
that was good. Fire away. All right. What a lead-in.
Yeah, there you go.
When you told me we were going to discuss this, I went, looked on the internet, and you had said that right now that there's, the 4 main reasons that California is doing what it's doing. Well, the first thing that popped up was a news story from January of 2019, and they had 5 reasons.
Oh,
so
okay.
in
2019 there were 5.
Yeah,
now there are only 4.
18 months we've dropped one of the reasons.
All right.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting subject. It's not easy to tackle. The first thing you have to, I guess we have to go back and give a little history about wildfires. They're cyclical. They are part of nature. That's what makes the flora and the fauna grow. That's what gets rid of what they call litter underneath it. It's what gets rid of the dead brush. I mean, it is natural in itself. What's not natural is people starting to live in it. And that's happening more and more and more. So you ask, well, why are we losing so many structures, and why is it that so many people are dying? It's because we're living in the brush.
So they're in this particular Newsweek story, they say more people have moved into rural areas. So
absolutely.
You're going to agree with their number 2.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have 1.
Okay, all right. And this was from January of 19. They said hot, dry summers. That's not unique. The unique thing in the fire service, and I really hate to put this out, but I've said it before, is when the wind blows you're never going to put out a wildland fire. And it's just a basic. Well, if you get down to the basics of what makes the brush burn, first off, I can speak of Southern California because that's where I came from. That's where I worked. We didn't get our brush season down there really in starting to latter part of October, early November, and we got the Santa Ana winds. What did the Santa Ana winds do? They started to blow, which is terrible for a fire, but it also dried out the brush. It brought the moisture content of the brush down. Well, that's what we're seeing up here in the northern part of the state, is that the moisture content of the brush drops very, very low. And that's when you see these red flag alerts. That's when the brush is at an explosive type. Well, they say, well, look at all the dead brush that we have. Well, believe it or not, the dead fuel that we have is still susceptible to that overnight influence. When it gets a little bit cooler and a little bit moisture, that absorbs the moisture just the same as the regular brush. When you have those times, the brush, it slows down. Well, what was the cause of most of these? Lightning strikes. Well, what do you have when you have lightning? You usually have thunderstorms. What accompanies thunderstorms? Wind. So now you have all those multiple factors. You've got wind, you've got the fire start, you've got the low humidity. And somebody say, well, what happens when it rains? That's good. Well, it's not enough rain to really affect the fire because it's so hot and there's so much wind behind it. So in putting out a fire, what you try to do is you get to the origin, this place where it started, and you work up both what they call both the flanks, each side, and you try to go towards where it's headed, and then hopefully those two sides that you're working on will come together at the top, and that fuel will burn off and you'll put the fire out.
So I have a question for
Sure.
you. I want to, because one of the things that they said, they're saying that wildfires have evolved, taking on new behaviors that make them more dangerous and unpredictable. For example, California wildfires that typically ran uphill now also run downhill.
No.
Okay, well, that's what they're saying. Also, wildfire burning used to slow at night, but now they're more active when the sun is down.
No. Those are not, and you know what? I don't doubt whoever that article was, and I did read those very words, is that you're talking about massive fires, and I'm sure there's some areas that indeed happen, but no.
But that's not typical.
No, when you light a match, where does the heat go?
I know, but I wanted to point it out.
Yeah.
So, but what about the fact that they're saying that at night they are now more active when the sun is down?
No.
Okay.
And for an obvious for an obvious reason, when the sun sets, it gets cooler and you get more moisture in the air. It brings up the humidity and it brings up the moisture content of the brush. So it typically slows down.
So in this person's words, in other words, these aren't your grandparents' California wildfires, as if they've mutated to become more dangerous. Is that possible?
Fire does not mutate. It's basic physics. It has done the same thing since the caveman.
Well, this is the division chief at the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection.
I respectively disagree.
Okay.
Because, like I say, maybe he was on one fire where that did indeed happen, and I don't doubt that. But is it common? No.
Okay, another cause, warmer temperatures from climate change.
Well, we are getting warmer temperatures, and in the summer with warm temperatures, it goes back to this drying of the brush. Yes. Is it caused by global warming? No, it's cyclical. We've had fires, like I said, since the caveman. Yeah.
And then it says California also experienced a 5-year drought that led to dead brush and other dried up vegetation as sort of fire kindling across tens of thousands of acres. Yes, no?
Well, yeah.
Probably.
And so what he's saying, in other words, what he's saying is nature is doing what nature does. And that's what nature does, you know.
Well, I think that GD's got the best answer of them all. He says that wildfires are caused by squirrels smoking in bed.
That's it.
I love it.
It is. We found that as a cause one time.
Thanks, GD. We needed that.
Yeah. That was, and we won't go to why he was smoking in bed.
Oh, Doug, shame.
No, you can say a lot of things about wildfires, and I'll tell you what. No, wildfire has not evolved to something that they weren't
before.
It's
like when you were fighting them.
Exactly.
Right?
You know, and maybe, I mean, if this particular gentleman, he said, well, you're just old school. Yeah, that's true. Works pretty well.
Well, I don't know how fires evolve. That, to me, seems, and mutate, that just doesn't seem...
It's physics.
Yeah, it doesn't seem possible.
Well,
so,
gravity doesn't evolve.
And it sounded to me in that particular article, they were trying to blame climate change. And, of course, the climate changes.
Well,
right?
You know, I jotted down some statistics, and one of the statistics was there's 1.5 million wildland fires between 92 and 2012, and 84% of them were man-caused. 16% were lightning.
Oh.
You know, that brings it up to 100%. I mean, I'm sure there's a few arson causes in there.
Of course.
And then, you know, some of the we're never going to stop it. It's a basic. To blame it on all of these things, it's very simple. Our population in California in the last 20 years have grown 20 million people, where have we put them? In the brush.
Yeah, you've had to.
It's going to happen. It's a shame. But
it's true.
It's not a mystery.
No. Well, Doug, I thank you very much for tackling my my questions and the fire stories when we have them. So, you know.
I like that. It's burning down now as much as it's burning uphill. Oh, no, it doesn't happen.
Haven't seen it, huh?
No.
Not in your career.
No. Well, maybe.
Maybe once.
It's very small. It was in a park.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about a race in America. So you need to stay tuned for that. And we will be right back.
Have you, a friend, or family member been diagnosed with cancer? Dr. Forsyth at the Forsyth Cancer Care Center offers an all-inclusive program to treat adult types of cancer. The Forsyth Immune Protocol Cancer Treatment Plan, in a current prospective study of over 6.5 years and 1,200 adult cancer patients, has produced a remarkable 30 times greater survival statistic when compared to conventional full-dose chemotherapy. Greater than 95% of all their patients choose low-dose insulin-potentiated life chemotherapy, using only 10 to 15% chemotherapy dosing with insulin. Dr. Forsyth has long been considered one of the most respected physicians in the United States, particularly for his treatment of cancer and the legal use of human growth hormone. Located in Reno, Nevada, Dr. Forsyth has seen patients from all over the world. To schedule your consultation today, call 775-827-0707. That number again is 775-827-0707.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd. Let me tell you about my favorite non-profit public charity, Wainema Wild Horse Sanctuary, located on the Forsyth Ranch in Hallelujah Junction area. And please go to www.wainemaranch.com. That's WYNEMA ranch.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Assistance League Reno Sparks, an all-volunteer nonprofit organization, works to improve lives by providing supplemental food, grooming essentials, and bus passes for low-income and homebound seniors. The Senior Sampler, a gift shop located within the store, provides senior crafters with a free venue to sell handcrafted items to supplement their incomes. Check out both the gift shop and the thrift shop at 1701 Vassar Street in Reno. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 4.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
She's gone like a little.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. This is What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson, here with Doug Ashby.
Hi there.
Just the two of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And having fun doing it.
We are, yeah. I've enjoyed this. It's quieter and different and, so.
And we have to say it on the air. We miss you, Ed.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. In case you listen to this, which I know he's not listening now because he's out there in the woods someplace hiking around. And
think he'll come back and listen to the show?
I don't know.
You better. We'll tell him we have a quiz for him.
That's right. There you go. That's what we can do. So one of the things that I wanted to, this is story time, and we like to do story time kind of at the end of the show. And it was, my headline was A Race in America. And I like to finish on a high note, so I'm going to do opposite what I was planning to do originally. And I'm going to talk about a story that I happened upon about an anonymous whistleblower that is, she's a teacher, and she was talking about training that was mandated in California schools. And the strange, this is about race. It is about race, and it's not my total story as far as race is concerned, but in California, and I was born in California. I'm from California. I love California. And I left because there were just so many things happening there that were contrary to what I believed in, the way the taxes were going. It just was crazy. So I came to Nevada and made this my home, and I've been here almost, I think, 26 years, 27 years, something like that. So
that's not a unique story, is it? That's mine also.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it isn't. It isn't.
There's hundreds of thousands of people there, and it's picking up speed.
Right. And I love Nevada, and I love what we do here. And one of the fears that I do have is that the things that happen in California will migrate here and become part of this community. And I think that a lot of people that came here from California really didn't want that, and that's why they're here. So when you hear something like this where a teacher says she was shocked when she learned her mandated training would include material based on Karl Marx's critical race theory, which argues the data, facts, and scientific method are exemplary of whiteness and are inherently racist. So she went on to Glenn Beck's show and actually provided documentation that she had been provided. So I looked at it, I thought, this is somebody hyping, right? This is hyping up something again and trying to make it seem like more than what it is. And I got to be honest with you, there were like 40 some odd questions, and they were totally focused around race. And totally, every question that they asked was about race. And so I'm probably going to sound like a racist to those who believe in this theory, because I looked at this and I thought, well, I just don't think that way. I don't frame everything around race. And so when you ask me a question based on race, I'm automatically going to not be able to answer that question because I just don't think that way. So, and then after reading through it, ultimately, yes, I'm a racist. So there you go. So it's a really sad thing when theories like this are being forced on teachers in the schools. And so what do you do? What do you do? And how do you keep it from coming to our state as well?
Well, didn't you say you were going to end up on a positive note?
I am. I'm not done yet. Because I'm going to talk about a race in America, which is what I talked about originally, which was my teaser. But I wanted to cover this because I don't know that a lot of people know that this is happening. And I think it's important to know, and it is a story. And if it's not true, gosh, I want to hear that it's not true. Because
I can give you an example why it's not true. Is just look at the last 200 years.
Why? If it's not true that they are doing this in California. And it's not in every school. No, it's not in every school. That was very clear because I listened to the full interview and they stated that it was not in every California school. But if it's in one California school, I think it's frightening. And again, undoubtedly I'm going to look racist to some folks because
where is the unity they're supposed to preach when they're telling you that if there's a white person out there, and when they say you're a racist, that means that you don't like minorities. Now, if they're teaching that, how is that bringing us together?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's such a hard subject to talk about, and we actually kind of avoid this kind of topic because it becomes very political, and I don't want to get political on it. But I want to understand how people feel this is the direction that our schools should go, or their schools in this case. It's not our schools. And I actually posted the story, so if you want to download the document that I downloaded, which is How to Talk About Race. Just the title itself is really kind of frightening to me. Why would I have to know how to talk about race? I don't. First of all, I don't normally talk about race as a topic.
When you see somebody, you don't think.
I don't.
No, I don't either.
No. Of course, I know what they are, or at least I guess what they are by when I look at them. If I look at you, I figure you're white, right? I mean,
you wouldn't think I was an African American.
I would not think that.
Good.
I would not think that. Okay. So I think that's a natural human thing to do. But I just found this really, really frightening. And, they say that critical race theory is grounded in the civil rights movement. That's what this document is saying. And it is a 20-page document. So, again, I did post that story on What's the Story, and you can read it for yourself. They're saying whiteness as property, permanence of racism. And one of the things that this particular teacher stated was, well, if they're telling me it's permanent, it's never going to change, then there's no opportunity to fix it. Yeah. So it kind of puts you into a little box is the way that it sounds.
Well, that's what they're, when they call you a racist, that's exactly what they're doing. They're putting you in a box.
Right. And I just don't think it's necessary. And I really thought that we were beyond this after the 60s when we did have the Civil Rights Act. And I thought we were really making it there. By the time I was an adult, I thought we were headed in that direction. I mean, we did, women's movements and the whole thing. And even that, sure. Do we experience discrimination as women? Absolutely. Absolutely. Always will. It's just part of who people are. Some people are going to maintain that no matter what, right? It's just the way it is. But not everybody, and it isn't huge. As far as racism, I can't say, other than I feel like on the opposite side that they're now coming after whites. So, what do you say about that?
Well, what they're trying to, I can give you, for instance, in the fire service, and starts back when you said in the 60s. in the 60s, we started affirmative action, and they wanted to hire on more minorities.
Right.
I understand that. We did a very, very good job with it. And one of the things that they wanted to do is they wanted to mix all the races within the firefighter ranks, which they did. It was great. Well, the latest is now the African Americans want their own fire station in their own community that's all black.
Huh. That's crazy.
It is.
That's opposite what we wanted to do.
Exactly. And and somehow they justify that as, well, that's what we want because we can serve the community better, because after all, we know the community. Well,
wow.
Yeah.
It's so different than what you would think it should be.
It should be just the opposite.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Martin Luther King was all about?
I thought so.
So
now on the high note,
yes.
I want to talk about a race in America, and it hasn't happened since 2012. So I'm putting it out there and saying, we need to do this again. It is the Trans-America Foot Race. And it is the longest race in the world, and there's got to be some folks out there who like to do this kind of thing. It's an individual ultra marathon in stages. Its distance total is about 3,112 miles on 70 stages. And I thought, we're all cooped up. Let's have the Trans-America Foot Race. All these people that have nothing to do can go and traverse across America and spread good things, being outside, social distancing, doing all the appropriate things. Well, it's okay. We're outside. Right? Isn't that a good thing? And you're not cooped up. You're not having the medical.
You'd be out of breath all man.
Well, but it'd be good. So that's my idea, is to have us have another Trans-America Foot Race. Let's up that again, and let's do it again so that people can get outside and get some energy and do some things that are positive.
Absolutely.
So there's my recommendation for a race in America.
Yep.
So I know I started on a little bit of a negative note. Sorry about that, but I think that was important. Wanted to end on a high note. I want to do the Trans-America Foot Race. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do it.
I was going to say, what leg are you going to run?
If I can do it as a relay race, I can probably participate.
They would have one person is going to run the.
I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have to be in shape.
No rest days. Yeah, you got to be in good shape. But again, we're all kind of lingering here, and it being stuck in our homes. This would be a way of effectively being outside and doing some good things. So that's my recommendation for the week.
Good.
And we're going to be back again next week.
Yep.
And we'll have another good show. And I think Ed will be back. And we'll...
and April?
Yeah, and April. Of course, April. Yes.
Yeah.
She'll have a good Reno Gal Says. So thank you for being with us. And we're here every week. And then don't forget, I'm on with Basil at 3 o'clock. So tune into that, too. See you next time.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. I help people solve difficult and trying personal problems every day on my TV show, but there's one problem that's just got me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. That's 1 in 5 kids who may not know where their next meal is coming from, despite the fact that there's more than enough healthy, nutritious food out there to feed them all. Now, I don't know about you, but that is unacceptable to me. Luckily, the Feeding America network of good people is